And welcome back to Casual Sunday Gamer. I am your host, Patrick. And this week I am joined by a very special guest. I'm proud to say a friend and one of our gracious patron backers, Daniel.
Hello.
Alex is out unfortunately this week. He's not been feeling well, a little under the weather, and Daniel was able to hop in and help us out at the last minute. Also, one of the special perks of being a patron backer is if we have to fill any last minute slots, you guys usually will get first phone call from me, the first panicked phone call. Help!
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, so was a pretty big week for games this week. One of the things that happened this week was Wednesday. Apple held their yearly, product roundup, I guess is what they call it. And one of their new things they showed off was the new Apple TV. Now, for those of you who are familiar with the Apple TV, you may know previous iterations. It was just recently dropped to $69, and it allows for streaming TV, internet, everything through your television set. Very similar to like a Roku or a Chromecast or a Amazon Fire Stick. But this new TV has a few surprises in store. It's also has a surprising new price tag for the new version. But Daniel, are you familiar with Apple TV? Have you ever used one in the past? Have you used anything similar?
I can't say have directly, other than, mm, yeah, I can't say have. No.
Okay. Well, I actually have a couple of Roku's, and we use those for streaming. We canceled our television service back in January of this year,
Okay.
and have been using that pretty consistently ever since. I think personally, I work in television, kind of. I work for a television station that will remain nameless, and we simulcast stream our shows online. And personally, for me, I think that is a great technology and one that is, I feel like the future. I feel like that's where it's going. A lot of your television is going to be streamed online, not just through your cable boxes on your television.
Well, there are certain efforts to undermine that, but that goes into a very broad conversation topic. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that really does, and that might be another show.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I really like the strides that companies like Apple and Roku and Google are making in this field to bring television online. And for me, like I said, I'm a huge uh, backer of this. I feel like it's where it's going. But Apple has decided that maybe it can do a little more. So the new Apple TV will come with a remote that features a touchpad, a microphone, and a built-in accelerator and gyroscope. So now this remote really seems a lot like a Wii U or a Wii U remote where it has the touchpad. You've got a Wii U, don't you, Daniel?
Yes. Yeah. Wii U. Got them both on day one.
Okay, so yeah, this new Apple TV remote seems like it's got a lot of the same features that the Wii U remote has: the accelerator and gyroscope, the touchpad, the microphone. Does the Wii U have a microphone? It does, doesn't it?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and it also works with Bluetooth 4.0.
Mm.
And a single charge lasts. They're saying a single charge on this remote will last 3 months.
Huh.
So sounds like maybe it's a more versatile Wiimote. I don't know how long the charge lasts on those.
Not nearly as long. You can get some very robust batteries, but they won't last 3 months. They probably won't last uh, more than a couple of days if you're robustly playing on them. But if you just use them sparingly, but actively, so sparingly but actively, probably uh, maybe a week or more. It just depends, I guess.
Yeah. So one of the other things Apple announced with this new iteration of the Apple TV is that there will be a new app store for the Apple TV. Um, so they're also going to basically make it so that a lot of your iOS games are now available on the Apple TV. So it's really kind of like they're making a small move into the home console base, on about the same level as, say, the Ouya,
Okay.
which we just talked about on a previous episode, has recently been bought out by Razer. So
What?
yeah, so if you haven't seen that, I believe it was episode 88. You need to go back. That's on YouTube. Check it out. Yeah, Ouya was recently bought out by Razer. Um,
Wow, that's if I can put a small word on that without derailing,
Go ahead.
that goes completely against the rails, the principle of what they're going for about being for indies, for all these. That's just my opinion. I mean, if they get bought out, I'm sure it's a lot of money for the people who are at the top, but for everyone else, now they're under a bigger umbrella, which means there are different rules to pick and choose which
Yeah.
indie apps are chosen to go
Well,
live.
Razer is getting ready to launch its own gaming console, which
Aha.
we talked about in that episode, and they're kind of putting their foot in the door by picking up Ouya and adding all of its titles and stuff to their growing library.
Yeah.
So, back to Apple. They are kind of putting themselves in this same space now as they are trying to bring mobile games to the living room. Being able to play things like what's the really popular one right now? Pokemon Shuffle, which I'm not sure. Yes, that is available on iOS because my son has it on both his iPad and his iPhone and his DS.
Okay. Yeah.
So you'll be able to
I didn't know
actually
it was
play.
on there. Yeah.
Yeah, so you'll actually be able to play this game now on your television through the Apple TV. Now, once this has made the transition, so it seems like there's going to be a pretty good launch for this. So Apple's Eddie Q, who was on stage, he named some titles that would be available for the Apple TV launch. Things including Rayman Adventures, Disney Infinity, Guitar Hero, Shadowmatic. Hipsterwell got some demo time where you got to see Crossy Road now available on the Apple TV. I know Crossy Road is a really popular iOS title right now. Um, so it seems like this could be a really good move on Apple's part because now they're going to be sharing that same space with these other uh, developers who are vying for time on your television. Of course, you have to choose. Do you want to play a game, or do you want to watch Netflix, or do you want to
Right.
watch HBO? Do you want to stream music through iTunes? This little box is going to be able to do a lot in your living room. It's almost kind of like a few years ago when Microsoft was saying they wanted the 360 to be the cornerstone of your entertainment in your living room. It's kind of like Apple's kind of going in that same way with Apple TV.
Right. With Windows' approach, though, I think was a bit unsavory, which was felt immediately. With Apple, by comparison, it seems like just a speculation, just off that alone, it seems a more subtle approach. So I think subtlety, done the right way, I think can be very effective rather than overtness when everyone's kind of maybe bum sword over so many overt things. But that's just my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, I agree. Now, as I mentioned at the top of the show, recently the previous generation of the Apple TV had just recently experienced a markdown to $69. Well, this new version of the Apple TV is going to run about $149. So now it's significantly more expensive than the previous version, but it as we had mentioned, it does significantly more. And there are even people now talking that it might be a cheaper barrier to entry for people looking for gaming home gaming consoles who don't want to shell out $399 for an Xbox One or a PS4 or $299 for the Wii U or however much it is now. I can't remember. But you could have parents who have young kids who are like, well, I can just buy this box and they can play these games and I can watch Netflix when they go to bed and I don't have to shell out for a traditional video game console. What what are your thoughts on that?
Well, as you said that, especially when you hit a point, the price point, the first thing I thought of when I mentioned when it was just discussed before talking about things was the Sony TV. First thing that jumped out in my mind, and I was going through looking here through basically price point comparisons, and for the Sony TVs, the ones that have the connection to where they basically go right to Sony's Sony's like Play model or something like that. Go Play Live or Go whatever it's called. You basically connected to a service where you play a lot of games that are past titles, some ports in the entire PlayStation network, to where portable, PSP, Vita, Classic, 2, 3, 4, so on. But they've been around for a little while. But so I'm just, as far as price point comparison, that's the first thing that jumped out. Is you have Android TVs, you have PlayStation TVs. If you have Apple TVs, it seems to be, in some ways, maybe just a continuing kind of branch of evolution from the core market of people who would be more inclined to go with those lines anyway. That's my kind of look on it.
Yeah, that's a really good point there. You know, I think, like I said, I believe this is a really smart move for Apple on their part. We'll have to see how it plays out over the course of the next few months when it launches, and between now and the Christmas season. But I think, do I personally think it will become a major player in the home console gaming market? No, probably not, because again, basically all you're doing is porting these mobile apps to the
Mm-hmm.
television, which that is kind of what Ouya did, and
Right.
it didn't work out great for them. But Apple fans are a whole nother breed. We could see a much bigger uh, taking of to this than I'm expecting. I expect they'll move a lot of units. Whether or not it's used for the gaming aspect, we'll have to wait and see.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's a good, I think, kind of prognosis. Not prognosis, but pre-analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So that pretty much covers that topic. Let's move on to what I think you really wanted to talk about this evening, and that is Destiny has a new expansion coming out day after tomorrow.
Woohoo! Yep.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the Taken King?
Well, it's Been playing since, just a bit of small background. I've been playing since alpha and beta, and haven't played the game consistently, but have kept with it mostly off and on, spurts and such. And so it's progressed, I think, quite well. It's aged, and it's small age by comparison, I think, well. But it had a lot of backlash as far as people demanding more story, more things, more this. But at its core, as it relates to the Taken King, it's expanding, I think, a lot more than it was. It's kind of like maybe not so much an expansion, but perhaps more and maybe more re-envisioned Destiny. Maybe perhaps as it should have been, and that's just a kind of subjective statement. But it's adding a lot of elements to the game that people now are, what I see, saying, yeah, this should have been there from day one, or this should have been there from day one. But and besides being critical on it, they're adding new classes, new this, new this, new level, all the insert new ad for expansion. They have that. But they also did a massive rebalance here recently, some days ago, and in preparation for the expansion. And they basically rebalanced the weapons, some class mechanics, a lot of patch fixes, some things, broke some exploits people were using to get pretty far ahead without minimal effort. So they cleaned up a lot. And the expansion itself apparently is pretty dynamic as far as story. And one of the biggest things people were talking about Destiny was it's a lot of hype, a lot of ambiguousness, a lot of excitement, but lacking in substance. So now the story continues, and I think it kind of goes back to what I said a moment ago, that it more or less makes kind of a complete okay. Now they have a quest system. Now it feels like an actual rigorous kind of sci-fi shooter
Right.
from Bungie, so you know it's going to be quality gaming.
Yeah, that was something I had heard about this. Is see, I actually own Destiny. I've not put a lot of hours into it. I've maybe played it 5 or 6 hours since I bought it. But one of the things I've heard about this new expansion is that progression is going to be more friendly and a little less confusing because when I first started into this game, you know, I didn't really look at it as okay, I'm playing an MMO. I looked at it more as okay, I'm playing an FPS.
Right.
And I think maybe that was the wrong mindset to go into it because once I got into it and got started and finished, kind of the tutorial area and got out into the first world and started doing missions, it was like, whoa, this is way too much. I'm not sure where I'm supposed to go and what I'm supposed to be doing other than, what I've been told, and so it was for me a little confusing. I can see. I'm hoping that like what I've been hearing about progression uh, is true. They've also said that the new quest system that you were just mentioning is going to be able to give you more to do in game besides shoot just endless waves of enemies.
Well, one of the things you mentioned a moment ago, I had kind of a funny thought that came to mind, uh, is that as far as too many things to do aside, basically, you see, basically you'd shoot enemies and you'd follow quests, but they weren't really quests. They're like icons and beacons, and the story was there, but it was a lot of, it was just kind of not as straightforward. But I was going to say, I've always jumped out at me and said, I'm only here to do what Dinklebot tells me to do.
Yeah,
but
yeah, exactly.
but Dinklebot, for Peter Dinklage, has been replaced by Nolan North, and they've actually gone back and redone all the lines that
I had
Peter.
heard about that.
And since Nolan North, that's what he does, is video game voices. They just went with him, and okay, I guess that's that. But I think it's interesting is not as, I don't want to bring attention to it, but just kind of objective observation, uh, one of the reasons, a couple of the reasons more surface that they replaced Peter Dinklage with Nolan North for the voice of Ghost, your own Ghost, as the player, and redid all the lines was partially for consistency, which checks out. You have the same voice from the beginning of the game onward. Another reason was, I think, for scheduling conflicts. Peter Dinklage is, he's heavily involved in some other projects, notably in Epic, One,
Yes.
HBO,
Yeah.
um, uh,
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
and so that's part of it. But another part of it that I just mentioned, kind of objectively, observationally, uh, was that apparently, when someone was questioned about it, that there was some kind of interview that happened. Some things were said, and I guess they didn't like his response on it, so that's part of the reasons they broke ties with him. But it's very minimal known about it.
Gotcha.
But I think the main two reasons were scheduling and just ease of consistency. But I still like Dinklebot. That's my favorite Ghost voice. So
Yeah. See, they should give you the option to toggle between Dinklebot and Northbot.
I'd like that. Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So, what else can you tell us about Taken King? What have you heard? What have you seen?
Well, kind of going back to the rebalancing portion of it. They rebalanced all the weapons, most of them at least. There was a particularly nasty exclusivity, exclusive, whatever that word is. The present tense version of that, whatever that word, of some exotic weapons. One of them being Gallahorn, this exotic a rocket launcher that was so powerful, in fact, that it got to the point where if you didn't have a Gallahorn, you were basically excluded from raids. Not all raids, but it was a trend. It was a growing trend because it was just more efficient with Gallahorn. You completed it faster. People got the game. It became kind of a growing thing. That was one of the reasons for the weapon rebalance. And in general, there are some weapons in PvP that were notorious for, if you saw it, you were happy it was on your team, and if you saw it against you, you just got really upset really quickly. And that was Thorn, and it was a hand cannon, and it was so powerful. So they rebalanced hand cannons, they rebalanced all these other weapons.
It's funny. I've seen a lot of memes about Thorn on Facebook lately.
Yeah.
I wasn't 100% sure where that came from. That explains a lot now.
All right. Yeah, it was. I mean, it's really powerful, but the thing is, if you basically had a gaming thumb, the gamer's trigger thumb, you could hit us. You could snipe someone midair from 500 yards away, kind of thing. If you had that thumb, you were just about untouchable. It could be just about untouchable with a thorn. If you just peg someone in the head with a thorn, and it does good damage, but it leaves a dot on you, and so it almost guarantees their death. And you just rack up kills like this, and not just PvP, but again, that was one of the things where it goes into the lot of some of the highest end raids. If you didn't have certain types of weapons, Thorn wasn't necessarily, but Gallahorn was one of them. It became very increasingly difficult for you to partake in raids, which by design were supposed to be for everyone to enjoy, as long as you had the skill for them and had made the connections. So they balanced for that reason. Also, some auto rifles, particularly the Suros regime. Basically, you could take a trait with it that you can zoom like you could a scout rifle and shoot slower and more damage. So effectively, you're making a very powerful up close auto rifle turn into a not nearly as effective but still tangible scout rifle, and the game balance, all those things. So a lot of game balance, and then the new classes. They have, I don't know the names exactly, but Sun something. It's a Titan. Turns into basically a flaming Thor. It's pretty nice.
Now,
Uh,
these part of the three original classes? Are these like new sub classes or?
right, they're just the subclasses of the original Titan, Warlock, and Hunter. There's actually a recent, as of I think several days ago, they have a new trailer for it.
Okay,
It's
so I just pulled it up. So the new Titan subclass is called the Sunbreaker.
okay, yeah,
In
or what I call it, Flaming Thor.
Yeah, incendiary siege engines of war, Sunbreaker Titans hammer and shatter their enemy ranks from afar, raining cleansing fire down upon fortified defensive positions. Okay,
Right.
the new Warlock subclass is called Stormcaller,
Or Emperor Palpatine.
or Emperor Palpatine, yeah. Stormcallers directly manipulate arc energy, focusing body and mind to channel and chain lightning. Their enemies are given fair warning, flee from battle, or face the storm.
Yeah, you just prop up and you fly around and you just let the hatred flow. It's so good.
Nice. Okay, and then the new hunter subclass is the Night Stalker. So all hunters master the frontier, but none claim territory quite like a Night Stalker. Shadow shot binding may seem more merciful than gun or blade until the feeding frenzy begins.
Yeah, that's. I think it's pretty interesting. I'm not sure what I've gone with. I mean, it fits into it. It's basically using psionic plasmic energy. You might see some from beam swords from Halo or something, and it basically turns into a bow, and it creates a little like a plasmic electric field, and it traps enemies within it, and they're paralyzed. They take damage, if not outright, just kills them depending on how weak they are, how strong they are. And it apparently can even affect, from what I recall reading about it, you can even affect larger enemies that would normally might be unsusceptible to CC. Uh, but it is an ultimate ability, so therefore, I guess it can make sense. Uh, but those are the three subclasses, and the level cap was raised to 40, and currently it's 34.
Okay.
And they're interesting with the level itself is before basically the cap was 20, and you'd use light levels where you use light to get to 34, effective light level 34, base level 20. Now it's more traditional. Uh, that's going away. Now you have level through just raw experience gain up to 40, and your light level is a separate stat. And that effectively is kind of like added gear level from MMO. It just increases your ability to do things. But so it's no longer your level. So it's similar, but they're just calling it a different thing now. But they calculate it differently to where you won't be precluded from participating in a level 40 raid, but your chances of succeeding will be increased the higher light level. So they've kind of tweaked it for more, I guess, more mass appeal, mass understanding.
Okay, gotcha. And like we said earlier, it looks like it will be available day after tomorrow, September the 15th. And just kind of looking here, looks like you can pre-order the complete Destiny experience, which includes Destiny, the expansion 1, The Dark Below, expansion 2, House of Wolves, and the Taken King for $59.99. Or if you already own Destiny and the first two expansions, you can get a digital download of just the Taken King for $39.99. It was $39.99 for the digital download.
Right.
So, all right. Well, I guess that'll wrap that up. Is there anything else you wanted to touch on this evening?
Uh, mm, no, it's nothing to do with our other titles, but just a quick, maybe one-liner that apparently Final Fantasy XIV is still going strong. It was ever since the expansion hit with Heaven's Ward, uh, and it's looking really good so far. If people were waiting till it came out for the Dark Knight and things like that, the storylines I think are definitely worth it. The writers have really pulled out. I don't want to say all the stops because I don't know how many stops there were to pull out to begin with, but it seems like their writing has definitely improved. There's more subtlety. It's more enticing, and you can fly now. So if that's your thing, I personally would avoid it because I've played WoW ever since, and I think it ruined the game. But
Yeah.
again, they can fly now, but you have to do a lot for it. So kind of a nice medium, I guess.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right. Well, Daniel, thank you for being on the show on such short notice. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And just a reminder to everyone that if this is your first time checking us out, you can catch all of our past video shows on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ecmmogamers, or you can check out our original audio streams, which we are going to be converting our video MP3s into our videos into MP3s so that you can continue to listen to them on the go. Those can be found on our website, ecmmogamers.com. And if you would like a chance to be on the show like Daniel has, please check us out on Patreon and help support the show so we can continue to grow. We have a new show getting ready to come out here pretty soon called Hero Power, and we are pretty excited for it and would ask you guys to come check it out. But if you would like to help and support and for a chance to be on the show, please visit the link at the bottom, www.patreon.com/ecmmogamers. Anything, every little bit helps. Anything you can is greatly appreciated. Alright guys, I believe that will do it for this week. Again, I am Patrick.
And I am Daniel Riv, and I wanted to add one small thing in here that kind of wasn't scheduled, but just added anyway. As far as supporting the show, it's basically the group, from I understand, got in with it early on. Known the people locally for years before that, and started out small and have been very passionate and dedicated to it. So it's it's not just some show that popped up like a month ago and hey, let's do something with it. It's been a what do they call something of love, labor of love.
Yes, yeah, it
So I just
has
want to add to
definitely
that.
been that. Because let me tell you, getting this thing started was pretty hefty out of pocket for Alex and I. But again, it's something we enjoy doing. We love doing it. We love creating stuff for you guys. And join Daniel and our other patron backers and help us to make more stuff for you, make better stuff for you. We're really excited about what the future holds.
Yes.
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us today, and thanks for checking us out. And as always, good gaming.
Yeah.